In this lesson, we're going to be creating some pie graphs with Illustrator's built-in tools. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in here. Inside of your project files, I have a Documents folder, and inside of that you have a file called piechartdata.txt. So this is going to have the two different pie charts data in it that we'll be creating. So it's going to be really quite easy for us to make this pie chart. It's not that difficult. The only thing that's a little bit strange is I've entered the data in here in a way that is the way that you must enter it into Illustrator's data entry. So you can kind of see that these aren't lining up perfectly, but once you get it into Illustrator, it will line up. And it also has to be in this TXT format if you decide to import the data instead of just enter it manually. So that's kind of why you see it like this instead of in an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to just drag this away for a moment. And then we're just going to kind of zoom in here on the side, and let's come over here where you see these tools, and you probably are starting out with your column graph tool. We're going to come down here to where you see the pie graph tool. Choose that, and I want this to be a perfectly round circle. So I'm going to just kind of come in here. This is where we're going to be creating our first pie chart, and I'm going to hold Shift just so that that circle is round. Now, this shape that I'm creating is not going to encompass everything. If this has a legend or anything like that in it, you're going to be able to have that on the outside of this square. So obviously this is a little bit too big. So I'm just going to back this up a little bit so that the square still fits inside of that column. So we'll just start out like that. Now you see this little data entry box pops up. So if we bring this over here, you can see that we've got some kind of categories here. So mollusks, fish, birds, and whales. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just type that in right here at the top. And it needs to go across in this way because if you did it downward where you had the rest of the categories on this side, it's going to create a really strange looking chart. So I don't know why it's that way. It seems like it should be able to go both ways, but that's just how we have to deal with it. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just type that data in, and then I'm going to be entering in those numbers. So we've got 54, 43, 2, and 1. And it's important, you can see I included this here, not to include the percent sign when you're entering the data, or it's going to say that it can't do that for you. So you can just hit Tab to go from one cell to the next. And now I have that data entered, and all I have to do now is just click Apply. And you can see that that created the pie chart for me, and you can see that the legend is kind of over here off to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe we should move this one over here just because looking at the Word document, this is kind of coming second. So if you read from left to right, we'll have this one over here on the side. And I think I want to have my legend on the left side instead of the right side. So to get in there and start changing that, I'm going to go up to Object. But first, while I still have data entry open here, I'm noticing that the birds and the fish are right next to each other, and that looks a little bit strange because that's such a small piece of the pie. So let's go ahead and change this so that birds is transposed with fish. So I'm just going to fix that there. So that's, just something to keep in mind. Whenever you're creating this, you don't want two really small pieces to be right next to each other. So now you can see we kind of shifted those, and that just looks a little bit better. You can see better what those are doing. So now you can X out of that data entry and select your object when you want to, change where the legend is sitting. And we can come over here to Object, then come down to Graph, and we're going to choose Type. And that's going to give us the type that we've selected as the pie chart, and then we have some options here for our legend. So right now we have a standard legend. You could put your legend in the wedges. Let's just see what that looks like. So Obviously, doing it that way is a little bit harder to read for some of these really small ones. So let's just take that back out. We'll go back out to our graph, go to Type, and I'm going to go back to Standard Legend, and we can change the position. So we've got ratio right now. We could do even. And one of the problems is that you can't preview while you're working, so you have to choose one, see how that looks, and then go back in to that menu each time. So that makes it a little bit more difficult, but that's just how we have to work here. So if we want the legend to be across the top, we could choose that, and that would give us that legend there. But you can see that I don't have the option to put the legend on the left-hand side, which is really actually where I want it. So what I'm going to do is change this back to what we had before. Just go back to my Type and uncheck that legend across top. And now that we have this set up the way we want, I'll go ahead and say OK. And I'm going to ungroup this so I can really start to customize. Now there's things that I can further customize from those options, like these colors, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently than being able to continue to edit this, because I just want it to be more customized. One thing I can do, however, is change the color really quickly and easily while this is still a group. So you can see when I click it, everything is grouped together. So what I'm going to do is come over here where you see your direct selection tool, click and hold it down so you can get your group selection tool. And then I'm going to click, let's go ahead and add this biggest shape here. And all I have to do is click once, then click again, and it will select this piece that is associated with that part in my legend. And we'll come over here and let's just start changing those colors. So I'm going to change that to a yellow fill, no stroke. We'll do this for the birds. Let's do the birds as that kind of pinky color. We'll have no stroke on that. The fish is the next biggest one, and I think it kind of makes sense to have the fish as a blue color, so we can choose that. And then our whales, let's have those be that dark navy color, just so that it's very obvious that that is another wedge, even though it's so small in there. Okay, so now we have this set up, and our text is kind of, you know, all following this piece here. The text actually looks really nice, just kind of the way that it defaulted for us. But if you wanted to, you could come in there and change it. You know, maybe we want it to be, you know, probably no smaller than 9. It starts to get a little bit harder to read, especially on a large poster, so I can crank up those text sizes. And now I'm just ready to ungroup this. So I'll go ahead and select it and hit Control-Shift-G to ungroup, and you can see that it says that it's going to lose anything that we have created if we ungroup it. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say OK, because I want to move that legend around. Now, again, I'm going to ungroup this, so hit Control-Shift-G. And now I'm going to group these two pieces together, and we want to ungroup this as well. So you'll probably have to go in and do that a couple of times just to make sure you get everything ungrouped, so you can click on everything by itself. Now we'll go ahead and group this, and then let's just pull this over here, and then let's group this big pie chart together. So I'm just hitting Control-G or Control-Shift-G if I want to ungroup, Control-G to group. And then just kind of moving this over here so that it fits in on the side. And I'll just kind of align that with the bottom of that text there that says organisms. And just to be able to give me those percentages of what this graph is actually showing, I'm going to just put those inside of this area here. So we still have the legend as far as what the animals are, but I want to be able to read those numbers. So I'm going to come over here, grab my text tool, and I'm going to type in those same numbers. So 54%, and then I'll just start with 1, and then I'll create some more just by alt dragging, and then we'll change the number. So I'm going to alt drag this over. We have 4 values. The other value is going to be 43%, and then we have 2% and 1%. And these are probably a little bit too tracked out for my taste, so I'm going to go ahead and select everything. Let's make them a little bit bigger. Come over here. Bring that in. Let's just take that down to a 0. And we can make them still a little bit larger if we want to, especially these two bigger ones here. I'm going to go ahead and scale those up. And maybe let's just make them all bold so they're a little bit more readable, just like that. Maybe medium might be a little bit better, just right in there. And then this is all, these two pieces right here are going to be sitting on the pie chart. So I think this one maybe could be a little bit smaller, and then we could just sort of hang it from that same top line as the other number, just like that. So we'll pull that over there. And then let's go ahead and make these that lighter color, just so that navy isn't so overpowering. And then these I'm going to go ahead and leave blue, so I can change those to that navy color. And maybe the second one, maybe birds will actually make the same color as the color for birds, so we can change that birds that's at 2% to that color. And then let's go ahead and I'm just going to position these two over here because there's obviously not enough room. And then we'll just draw some little lines that kind of show what that looks like. I'll flip that over. And then let's just drag this one down. So it's going to be aligned on the left, and then I'll just pull the right in over here. And we'll go ahead and change that color as well to be that same kind of reddish color. Let's align these two pieces so that they are sitting together. So we'll come up here to our align menu and we'll do a horizontal left align. And I'm going to undo that, and let's make sure that we have it aligned to our selection and not our artboard. And we'll just kind of pull that in a little bit closer. Let's align that with the bottom of the stroke. So that one needs to go up a bit, just like that. So really quickly we were able to customize that graph and just make it feel like it fit a lot better with what we were creating. And this text is probably a little too tracked out as well, so maybe we can come in here. Let's say that we want this just to sit at maybe something like 50. I like the way that it looks when it's really tracked out like that, but it's taking up so much room. I'd like to be able to use that room a little bit more efficiently. So we'll just go ahead and fix that now. Bring that one down to 50 as well. Then we can take everything and just kind of scoot it over a little bit closer to the actual graph. And maybe we'll just align kind of whales right here with the edge of that one, just to make that feel a little bit better. Okay, so now that we have this kind of set up, we probably also need to label this. So I know earlier we were trying to keep those aligned, but let's just go ahead and push this up to the top here so that we have a little bit of room to put a label down here at the bottom. And the reason why I want to put the label at the bottom instead of at the top is just because we have so much text here at the top. It's very text heavy. So this is going to be called Breakdown of Species in the Reef. So I'll go ahead and just copy that from that pie chart data and hit Control V. And let's go ahead and just put that at a 0 for our tracking. And instead of medium, let's try just regular. And let's put this at 12. And we can left align this with our piece right here. So we have this grid basically right aligned along this edge, or this pie chart, so that we still have a nice little amount of breathing room there. And now I need to make one more pie chart, which is going to go really quickly because I don't really need it to be not really any kind of difficult data. So if you didn't even want to use the tools that we used, you could simply come in here, grab your ellipse tool, and then just create a circle that's that same size. So I just kind of started right in the middle. I'm holding Shift and Alt to make that the same size. And then I'm going to pull this over here. So I'm just really showing you how to do it in a very manual way. We'll grab our rectangle tool, and I'm doing it in this way simply because my other graph, if you look over here, is 25%. So we know that's a quarter of the circle. So if we just start right there in the middle of the circle with that tool and drag out here, just kind of pull that out, that's going to be exactly 25%. And then we can use our Pathfinder panel to cut this so that we can change the color of that percentage. So let's go ahead and we'll open that up. And that's going to be this option right here, divide. So go ahead and click that. And that's just going to take this line and use it to cut that circle. So now if I select the whole thing and we hit Control-Shift-G to ungroup those, I'll be able to select this piece and simply delete it. And then I have this piece as that section of my pie chart. And we can just come in and maybe choose some slightly different colors. We haven't used that brown yet, so we could go ahead and do that. Turn off the stroke, and for this black color, we'll go ahead. We can just come in on this side and change this piece to the navy color, and then let's just go ahead and we'll put that same percentage, you see, bring this to the front up here, and we'll just change that to 25%. And then this area here is basically all other marine life. So if you read that, it says reefs contain 25% of all marine life on the planet. So this is basically all other marine life. And we can put that maybe just kind of on a circular path here just to sort of label what this other side is. So I'm going to come in here, we'll grab that ellipse tool. Again, I'll just kind of start in the middle, pull this out. If you need to readjust it, you can hit the space bar. And then I'm just going to type on a path tool right there. Instead of type tool, just type on a path tool. We'll click that, and we'll just go ahead and type this one in. Make sure we spell it correctly, and we'll call this all other marine life. And I can't see it at all because it's black, so let's go ahead and change that to that light color. And right now this is kind of hard to see just because of the way that the text is being set up. So there's a lot of space in between these words here. So I'm going to come into my paragraphs, or actually my character panel, and let's just check this out here. Looks like the issue is probably happening with the actual text box itself. So I'll just pull this around because this was set up as justified, so it kind of defaulted to that. And we can grab this here and pull that on the inside and then just drag that around and just kind of start to move this just like that. And we'll bring this back in. All other marine life, just like that. And then we can pull this in from the side. And if you want to, you could just come over here to the other side and rotate this down. And I'm just going to rotate it where the A starts at kind of this point here that's being created by the bottom of that 25. So all other marine life is easy to read. It's not going to be too far upside down. And one last thing that I would like to do is maybe just come in here and actually change these to be white, just because this one is a little bit hard to read. So just for consistency, we'll change those all to white. And then let's go ahead and add a label to this as well. We also want to make sure that those are about at the same height. So that one looks just a tad bit higher. We'll go ahead and move that, and you can just delete this. Grab that breakdown of species in the reef, and we'll just drag this over, left align that. And this one is going to be this piece of text right here. So we'll just kind of reiterate that, or we could call it breakdown of marine life on the planet. So maybe we should do that just to make it more cohesive with our other label. So go ahead and just highlight that part, hit Control-C, and go back to our normal type tool. And I'm just going to highlight everything after breakdown, and then we'll hit Control-V, and there you go, breakdown of marine life on the planet. So this is, you know, we set this up. It took a little bit of time to get both of those set up, but really customizing, you can see, is pretty easy. The only problem is that now you can't go in and change the distribution of the size of those. You'd have to do it by hand or just create a new graph and edit it from there. Once it's ungrouped, you can't go back in and change that. So in our next lesson, we're going to learn how to create a scatter graph, and we'll also be customizing that. So you'll see how to create a slightly different graph with a different sort of data in our next lesson.